Hello and welcome to my channel, and I am Stephanie, and this is another Booktube rant. This video is going to be ranting about sexual harassment, sexual abuse, romance, all the things that are sort of going on right now. I don't know how long this video is gonna be or how it's gonna play out or anything like that. I'm really going off the cuff here. I mean, I have a few things written down and some things that I've looked up, but this morning really just put it on the top of my brain. I had been wanting to do this video and everything like that since I did my other Booktube rant video, which speared off and gave great conversation. So thank you to all of those that left comments and thoughtful opinions and everything like that. I loved all of those comments. One of the things that came up was talking about how so many people sort of shun romance and romance novels because they have so many problematic, and if you've watched my channel at all, you know that I really hate that word, problematic, because by definition, problematic is just having a problem and working through it or having some sort of arc. So saying something is problematic in life, if you have a journey, you're gonna have problems. So this is what I'm talking about. I don't know how this is gonna work out. So I'll start talking and then I'll go off on a tangent and everything like that. Anyways, back to it. That a comment came in that, you know, there are a lot of problematic or socially unacceptable practices within romance novels, and that's sort of why they get a bad name and why they have the stigma that they do. And I really wanted to do sort of a rant video about this because so much is going on in the world today and it's just driving me crazy, and I just got to get my opinion out there. And I've talked to some of my female coworkers, and it's really funny that even though some of them are in the same age bracket as I am as an exennial, and we teeter between being a millennial and a Gen X person, so we have, you know, the digital and we have the analog sort of prospect of everything. It's funny that even through that, one step further, our experiences in life are so different that our take on the different topics of sexual harassment and sexual abuse and the terms and what is all entailed to that is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. So back in October of 2017, it really hit the news majorly when a big-time movie executive had allegations against him. Now, there were the ones before that, you know, the Anita Hills back in the 90s and Monica Lewinsky in the 90s, and everything back, dating all the way back to the 70s when women really entered into the workforce. So I did some research and I started looking back, and like I said, back in the 70s, there was a woman named Lynn Farley, and she wrote and was teaching a course about women and the workplace at Cornell, and she really was the one that coined the term sexual harassment. And that was all because of the social morals of the workplace. It had been a man's workplace. It was male dominant, and going around saying, "Hey sweetie, can you get me my coffee?" or "Hey hun," or touching someone's shoulder or anything like that. It made women uncomfortable, but they didn't have an outlet on how to navigate it and let those men know, hey, this is not right. So fast forward to 1991, which is when Anita Hill went to Congress and Senate and went up on the Hill against Clarence Thomas with his nomination to the Supreme Court. And stated, during her time working with him, she was sexually harassed and that she didn't feel safe or she felt unheard when telling her story. If you're thinking about it, people, that was just the 90s. That was, 20 years ago? Not even? I mean, yeah. 25 years ago. So it's just crazy that small amount of time we have come leaps and bounds. But at the same time, we are flooded today in 2017 with stories of big time movie people that we revered, I guess, or thought were upstanding citizens, males, what have you, because I'll get to that, but it's very interesting that we have so many males that are getting accused of sexual harassment, sexual assault, things of that nature, but women are just as capable of being the subject or the offender as well as being a victim. I will get to that, hopefully, if I don't go off topic again. I come from a place where I sort of had all of those aspects in layers. When I was in the military, I was definitely part of the boys club in which I had to navigate, and I had seen other female soldiers that if they didn't get promoted or if they didn't get what they wanted or if they were late so that they didn't get yelled at, they would claim that, the male supervisor touched them the wrong way or coerced them to do things. So the Army and the military instituted lots and lots and lots of training for sexual harassment and sexual assaults and things like that. I did 8.5 years in the military, so I was completely inundated and educated about those type of things. So when I now see a story about these women that come out and it's been 10, 15, 20, 30 years that this happened, oh, this guy sexually assaulted me 30 years ago, it makes me stop and go, 30 years ago would have been in the 80s, so I sort of understand why you didn't come forward, but why are you just now saying something? And this is not victim bashing in any way, shape, or form. If someone touches you inappropriately, if someone does something that's unwanted, there's no reasoning for that, period. It's just interesting that we take these new social unacceptances, sexual harassment, sexual abuse, the new terms for them, the new definitions for them and explanations for what they are, and we impact them and place them on literature and books that were written back 20 years ago, written about things that happened 200, 300 years ago, i.e., a lot of people, a lot of millennials I have seen here on Booktube that want to bash the book Outlander or the series Outlander. And they say that it is perpetuating the rape culture. Outlander is set in the 1700s, the 1800s. Yes, the female character comes from the 1940s through 1960s. However, she's going back in time when it was socially acceptable to force your wife to sleep with you or to have hate sex. Not really, excuse my French. Hate sex, you're having a disagreement with your spouse. It's a male-dominated time. Women weren't able to speak freely as they are today and have the rights that we have today. So how do you place those same social unacceptances on, for one, something that's fiction, and two, for something that is set back in a time frame when it was socially acceptable? Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. And it definitely brings up the fact that we have these new social unacceptances of the terms which I pulled from the Department of Justice, and sexual harassment is the unlawful harassment of a person, an applicant, employee, because of that person's sex. And sexual harassment is also could include unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment or sexual nature. Now, this one topic gets me all sorts of heated because I am in maybe the small percentage of people that believe if you continue to cry wolf, or if you take something that is so minor out and blow it out of proportion, that it's going to lose its impact. Prime example, in my opinion, the allegations that have been made against former President George Bush, the first one, I can't remember what his initials are, but the first one that says 5 years ago, man was like 80, he was in a wheelchair, groped women during photo sessions. Okay, people, the man is crusty as dirt. He's in a wheelchair, and you're taking a photo with him. So if he puts his arm around you at that level and he's in a wheelchair, unless you are a small person or a little person, it's gonna hit your like hips, your butt area. Really? Really? But you want to drag a former president through the mud and say that he sexually harassed you and groped you because his arm was at that level. Did you stop and go, hey, Mr. President, you want to move that arm for me? Or did you brush it away? Did you let one of the aides know, hey, I didn't feel comfortable with that? Probably not. But you waited 5 years, and now that it's all in the news again, you want to bring your story and get your 15 minutes of fame. That's what it sounds like to me. Call me callous, call me unrealistic, I don't know. But that's how I'm feeling right now. Now, these other women that are bringing stories to light, just stating, oh, he grabbed my butt, or he said something inappropriate to me. Through my training and my experiences, women are just as bad as men are when it comes to locker room talk. Now, don't get me wrong with my generalization there, because like I said, my experiences and things like that all really boil up to sort of my experience in the military and being in a male dominant job field. We all were pretty bad at the whole cat calls, and if the guys can do it, I can do it. I definitely had that mentality when I was a young soldier and I decided I wanted to sleep around. Don't call me a slut, don't call me a whore, because I'm doing exactly what you're doing. Now, on that, we think it's funny, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, when Betty White or some of these older comedians, want to, oh, I'm a cougar and I'm going to go after that, underage guy. Or these teachers that are just fresh out of college, 23, 24, 25, and they're sleeping with their 16, 17, 18-year-old students, male students. She's just a bad person. But let it be flipped on its end and be a male teacher or a male coach, and he is automatically named as the pedophile. Flat out, he's a pedophile. Why such a double standard? If we're gonna, the Department of Justice says that it doesn't matter your gender, you can be an offender. It doesn't matter. Now, do men actually report when things like this happen? Not as much as women. Women step forward. but men don't. So I don't know how that works or why that is. Just because it's been a male-dominant world, probably. But I talk about this because in turn, we have, like I said, those social acceptances that are unacceptable now, but then we see them in fiction, in books, which brings me to my love of 50 Shades of Grey, or the 50 Shades trilogy, and it's such a controversial book that it's been banned because of supposed, sexual abuse that happens in it, or the sexual assaults that supposedly happen in it. And let me go and tell you that the definition by the Justice Department here in the United States for a sexual assault is unwanted sexual activity with predators, using force, making threats, or taking advantage of victims not able to give consent. In that book, at no time does he forcibly take advantage of Anna. 1, it's fiction. 2, he doesn't do it. So to say and bash that book because supposedly you are reading into the social acceptances based on these new laws here in the United States, it's such a fine line. It really, really, really is. And it's crazy because then on top of that, sexual assaults is any type of sexual conduct or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. They have a whole damn contract in 50 Shades trilogy. A whole contract. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. There is really a fine line in my book that our society is going to fall to the point where being kind to someone is going to be socially unacceptable because we have drawn out the definitions that have already been in place, the laws that have already been in place, and the meanings behind it. Instead of speaking up, using your voice and saying, I feel uncomfortable when you walk into a conversation, or taking a person aside and saying, that makes me uncomfortable. Someone comes up to you and touches you and you go, excuse me, that makes me uncomfortable. Use your voice, say what's on your mind instead of just shying away. Oh, I feel intimidated by you and I'm going to hold this in now for 5 years, and then I find out you're going to, be this man of power, and all of a sudden, he touched me wrong. It's crazy. So, in romance, there's all these different crazy things that happen, right? These books that don't get looked at because they're alpha male dominant, and they have these stalker. I hate to use the word stalker because stalking is bad. Stalking is against the law, but you have these stalker-like tendencies that come off, and you get to that point in the book and you don't finish it off, for one, to know if there is an arc. You just stop right there and you're like, oh, no, that's a trigger for me, so I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to bash this book. I'm going to give it no stars whatsoever because it had this person stalking and he forced her to have sex with him. But did he really? Because pretty sure many of the books that are romantic in nature, they usually have an arc to the story and a journey to it. Most of them have explanations for some of the actions that are taken. Many of the ones that I have. And most of the books that I've read, 700, almost 800 books that I've read over the last 6 years, have these sort of themes. Lots of these themes. Alpha males, the rich guy, some of them have virgins. A lot of them don't like to talk about having protection during sex, and then they have the surprise pregnancy type thing. I enjoy those. I know other people enjoy those, but to bash those books because they don't have socially acceptable real life aspects to them, it's like, it's fiction. It's make-believe. It's imaginary. It's not meant for you to go and act it out. It's for entertainment purposes. I mean, come on. Come on. It's crazy. So you may be thinking to yourself, she's ranted on and on about sexual abuse and sexual harassment and things like that. So let me let you in on a little piece of me. Little small piece of me. Not very many people know this, and this is probably the largest platform that I've ever sort of put this out on, is that when I was younger, I was sexually molested and assaulted, raped, whatever you want to call it, when I was a child, before my age of 18, by a family member. So that in itself, it's been almost 25 years of dealing with that on a personal level. I don't go different places because of these people or this person, and I had a rocky relationship with some family members, all because of this. It's a family secret, and if any of my family members are watching this right now, sorry to break it to you. Yeah, it happened, and hopefully you can accept it, but it happened. It's no longer a secret. I've worked through my issues. I still work through my issues every single day. Every single book that I come across that has some sort of sexual abuse or trigger, molestation, or any types of those aspects, I get triggered. But I can work through my triggers. I've learned to work through my triggers. It has taken me a long time to work through my triggers. Getting help, talking about it, the Me Too movement that happened after that big named movie mogul got fired and got caught on tape. Not just allegations, caught on tape. It happens. It's wrong. We need to talk about it. It definitely needs to be brought to light. But as Anita Hill said in a documentary that I found, or a package video that I found, this all started back in the 1970s. 1970s, roughly 35 years ago. That's a drop in the bucket if you think about how long did it take the United States to abolish slavery, to get rid of the Jim Crow laws, to actually have some sort of footing and dialogue for people of color here in the United States to say, I can succeed in anything that I put my mind to and work hard to achieve. Craziness, right? Craziness. At least it's crazy in my opinion. I mean, but that's a totally different video. So I've ranted and probably made absolutely no sense whatsoever. So let's chat about this. Where do you stand on this whole sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual assault standpoint? Do you think that social unacceptances should be placed on a literature here in Booktube? All the book bashing and things like that goes on? Should we keep it as fiction and be able to take our minds out of the fact that it's fiction and know what's real life, what's socially acceptable, what's socially unacceptable in real life versus what's happening in books? Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. I started a Goodreads group and a blog, so please go check that out as well. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.